Hi to all of you out there who are in the process of rebuilding your life. I'm Grace chatting, and I wanted to talk to you about grief. One of the women in one of my groups has asked about the grieving process. And well, for people, this particular woman is in a group where most of the people have left someone who had an alcohol problem. And I would say in that situation, um, the grieving process has been going on for years before you even left, because you would mostly have seen the writing on the wall for years, and it's taken you years to actually make the decision to get to a point of leaving. And you may have left and come back and left and come back. And on average, people in those situations leave about 8 times and come back again. And so this may be the time when it's the last straw. So you will have had a lot of grief already. And the trouble is, up until now, you've not actually followed through past the pain, the acute pain point of being able to stay away and carry on through the process. So the first stage is denial, and kind of really not accepting it's the end, and keeping on hoping and wishing and dreaming that maybe when you move house things will be different, when you change jobs things will be different, maybe when you have another baby things will be different, and you realize that no, things are never going to be any different. And so if you've left, you're grieving. But here's the thing, you're not just grieving for that person that you left, you're grieving for what you hoped to have, what you kept wishing and hoping for. So it was kind of like an unspoken future, a future that you had in the virtual world of growing old together and being grandparents together and attending your children's graduations and weddings together and all of that. It's the letting go of that. So some of the pain that you feel is not just for the person, and you think that all this pain is because you've loved them so much and it's because you're missing them. It's not just missing them, it's everything that you had invested in that person and in that relationship. And maybe some of it was delusional. It was just never going to happen. And there's something about accepting that. So another stage of the grieving process is anger. And anger often masks hurt, helplessness, powerlessness. Because when you come out of a long-term marriage or relationship, it's not just that that person's gone. In fact, sometimes the fact that that person's gone makes your life a whole lot easier. It's the responsibility that you have for your family and yourself, that you are solely responsible for keeping a roof over your head and food on the table and in the cupboard, and making sure everybody's all right. Because if you've left a partner who had an alcohol problem, for example, well, they weren't being responsible and taking responsibility anyway. You always were having to take that responsibility. But it's a stark reality when you find yourself on your own with children, and that's what you're going to have to do. And maybe, you're not living anywhere near your family of origin, and it feels a bit hefty. It's not what you signed up for. So that can feel quite overwhelming, and the fear of how am I going to manage? I mean, it may be that you weren't managing anyway with your partner, but somehow it wasn't all down to you. It was a shared responsibility, even if the other person wasn't meeting their responsibility. But now that you've left, it's all down to you. Now, it can all be pretty scary. Um, Now, at that point, you can get into overwhelm and feel like you're yearning for safety and security, and you put it back to a point in time when you first got together with your partner, when you hoped for safety and security. You forget that you never got it. And you know, there's some kind of wishful thinking, and you go back into denial. So that can happen too. And really, it's a case of getting to the point of writing it out. My suggestion is that you get yourself onto a course of education of some kind, some project or something that you're involved in that doesn't involve finding a new partner, because you need to recover from the one that you had. And there's no point in just replacing one thing with another. You need to recover. You need to discover yourself, and you need to actually start rebuilding a life and standing on your own 2 feet. So a course of study that will add value to you and your chances of employment and being able to be self-sufficient is a useful thing to focus your energy on. Now, you might think immediately, oh, well, I can't afford that. And actually, most people, when they've just separated, they are definitely in reduced circumstances. Sometimes the reality is that they're not that much worse off because all the money isn't going to pay for a habit. But what I want to draw to your attention is your mindset. It's important not to get into a poverty mindset where your first thought about everything is, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. Logically and rationally, you know, according to the money that's not in your bank, rationally you can think, I can't afford it. But a more useful mindset is one that doesn't immediately shut down with a I can't afford it thought, but rather goes from the right brain, not the left brain, the right brain, and goes into a state of wonder. I wonder how I could possibly afford to go back into education and do that degree. I know it seems impossible, but it's a possibility. I wonder how that might be possible. Now, wonder takes you away from your conditioned thinking, which has all the blocks on it. And amazing things happen. So it's reminding me of what Gerda said, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it now. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And that is my experience. When you get taken up in being open to the universe and providence and allowing providence to step into your life and not sitting all contracted in fear and worry and anxiety, which, you know, just attracts more things to be fearful of. But you're open in wonder and expansiveness to growing and developing and creating a life that's your life, that's not depending on somebody else. All kinds of magic and wonderful things happen. So I would encourage you to take that more expansive route. And so I'm going to leave it there for now, but I'll say more in other videos. So bye for now. Bye.